This is Rohingya Vision News. Today is Tuesday, 18th February 2014. I am Diana Ahmed. The President asked to expel MSF from Rakhine State. Fair or unfair, Burma's census will drive violence and discrimination. Residents of Rakhine State have sent a petition to President U Thein Sein asking him to expel Medecins Sans Frontieres, the head of a women's group told Mizima on February 15. The president has been asked to expel MSF from the state by the end of the month because Rakhine people were dissatisfied with its work, said the chair of the Rakhine Women's Network, Do Nyo A. The demand follows a series of protests held in big towns in Rakhine State since February 3rd, at which Burma and foreign non-government organizations were accused of showing discrimination in providing assistance to victims of communal violence. The protests had also demanded that all NGOs leave the state within a week. The decision to write to the president to seek the expulsion of MSF had come after no NGOs left the state, Do Nyo A said. Residents of Rakhine State have sent a petition to President U Thein Sein asking him to expel Medecins Sans Frontieres, the head of a women's group told Mizima on February 15. The president has been asked to expel MSF from the state by the end of the month because Rakhine people were dissatisfied with its work, said the chair of the Rakhine Women's Network, Do Nyo A. MSF wrongly reported after the incident in Duchiartan village in early January that it treated 22 people for injuries, which was a fabrication aimed at creating trouble, she said. They don't want to help. It's clear they have other purposes, and that's why we decided to write to the president. A spokesperson for MSF, Do A Pei Son, confirmed that it had treated 22 people for injuries after the Duchiartan village incident and expressed regret that the NGO's role of providing medical assistance had been misunderstood. We have never released information aimed at causing trouble. We reported what we have done to the Rakhine State Ministry of Health as well as to the media, said Do Pei Son. We have been impartial wherever we work, and we have been providing medical assistance in some of the most difficult places in the world for 40 years, she said of MSF, which was awarded a Nobel Prize in 1999 in recognition of its pioneering humanitarian work on several continents. A spokesman for the Rakhine State government, U Win Myint, told Mizima that the memorandum of understanding under which MSF operated in the state was believed to have expired. The Ministry of Health is checking it, U Win Myint said. MSF is reported to be negotiating with the Union government for an extension of its MOU to operate in Rakhine State. MSF has been working in Burma since 1992 and has provided medical assistance in Rakhine, Kachin and Shan states and Yangon and Tanintharyi regions. Since communal arrest erupted in Rakhine State in June 2012, MSF is reported to have opened clinics in the state capital, Sitwe, and in 8 other townships. Next month, the Burmese government will begin the country's first nationwide census since the early 1980s. As preparation for the start date on 30th March gets underway, several groups have highlighted their concerns about how the census could work to further inflame violent nationalism and exclude minority groups. The International Crisis Group released a strong briefing last week that covers various important issues associated with the census, focusing in particular upon the requirement to list religion and ethnicity, a real danger at present given the recent violence directed towards the country's Muslim population and the Rohingya minority in particular. As the ICG briefing notes, the problems are manifold and affect all of the country's ethnic groups, the number of which is contested. It says that minorities will only be allowed to field representatives for local government if their population as recorded by the census is above a certain number. Groups fear that if their communities are subdivided or misclassified, they may be denied that political representation. There is no possibility to report mixed ethnicity, forcing people into a single identity to the potential disadvantage of some smaller groups. It also makes a key point on the issue of how the census, even if carried out accurately and fairly, namely allowing minority groups to record their identity according to what they believe it to be, could fuel anti-Muslim sentiment. Currently, it is widely believed that Burma's population is 4% Muslim, a figure reported in the 1983 census. However, there are strong indications that the real figure collected then was over 10%, but that a political decision was taken to publish a more acceptable figure of 4%. The results of the current census could therefore be mistakenly interpreted as providing evidence for a threefold increase in the Muslim population in the country over the last 30 years, a potentially dangerous call to arms for extremist movements, emphasizes added. There is also the issue of whether Rohingya will be allowed to label themselves as Rohingya. Various rights groups have said that census should be suspended until this category is included or until the government agrees to remove the demand that ethnicity be listed, lets it inflame an already tense situation. But some worrying comments on this matter have been made by Kin Yi, who is heading up the census and who incidentally played a key role in orchestrating the military crackdown on protesters in 2007 when he was police chief in Yangon. He has already said that Rohingya will not be an option on the ethnicity list. Here, he is quoted recently in local media. They say that their race is Rohingya. When a person says that his race is B because he does not want to mention his race as A, that means that race A no longer exists, but the race B is a new race. Since race B is a new race, there will be questions such as how did the race enter the country or are they encroaching here? When things become radical, I worry that it could harm peace and stability. We will record what the person says. If he says A, then we will fill the form as A. The result will be, like I said before, that even if that term A is Rohingya, we will not recognize Rohingya as one of the 135 ethnic groups in Burma. The UN Population Fund UNFPA, which is providing assistance for this census, is now in a tricky position. Its involvement ostensibly lends support to a project that could soon institutionalize and make official a policy of discrimination towards minorities that the UN itself has criticized. The UN spokesperson said in response to a journalist's recent question on the issue that it was supporting the government to ensure that the census is fully inclusive and conducted according to international standards. But still, as Kin Yi made clear, even if respondents were allowed to record the identity of their choosing, it will ultimately matter little. The Baptist man in Chin State may not even be allowed to fill out the form, and the Rohingya will still be regarded as non-citizens and therefore stateless. As the ICG further notes, some extremist Rakhine political actors undoubtedly fear that the census would establish a baseline Rohingya population that would make it more difficult to sustain the narrative of recent migration in the future. In light of all this, it's clear that a suspension of the census is necessary, given that carrying it out now in any form will worsen a fragile situation. If it is done fairly, it could antagonize ultra-nationalist Buddhists who see other religions, whether they be Muslim or Christian, as non-Burmese, and likely spur greater violence. If done unfairly in its current form, it will disenfranchise minority groups and deny them political and civil rights for the foreseeable future.